Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Peculiar Endeavours podcast with me, Emily. As I already started talking about my surgery in the previous podcast, I thought I might as well just talk about it in this episode. So basically, when I was 16 years old, I started being vegetarian. And there were a few factors that kind of led me on to becoming a vegetarian. I think one of them was that I always had issues with food since I was born. Really, I never liked to have breakfast in the morning, and that was, since I was a baby. But I was always told that you have to eat, and I used to always be quite skinny. And I was basically food traumatized since I was a kid. I went to a kindergarten where they force fed me, and I just had such issues with I was too scared to tell my mom in the beginning, and I was very little, and it was like this whole case of like everyone is eating, so you have to eat. So I used to basically throw it up, and it kind of like was a cycle of being anxious and just literally feeling sick in the morning because I knew that I had to eat. So I was just a very anxious child, and my dad was very strict as well, and there was times when he could just sit and stare at me just to make sure that I was eating. Now, when I'm older, I kind of understand why, and I think is a very natural thing for many people not being able to have breakfast early in the morning. But, back in the day, that was the whole thing, breakfast is like, breakfast of champions, the most important meal of the day is apparently breakfast. And it's just a lot of bullshit, really. And so in my mind, I thought maybe, it's not really when I eat, maybe it's about what I eat. And at that time, I also was really into like the Hare Krishna. I was reading books, and I did work about Hare Krishna for school as well when I was younger. So I thought like that, was something that I should be doing, and that it would be better for my health. And this is probably the case of why I feel sick, is because I'm eating meat. So I stopped eating meat when I was 16, and my mom wasn't like too happy about it, but she wasn't too bothered about it. It was mainly when I was visiting my grandfather. He just did not understand why. Like, obviously he said, you need to eat meat. And I just thought that, he's of the older generation, so he wouldn't understand, right? And I think when I start doing something like this, I get very strict with myself. So I was really making sure not to eat meat. So in the beginning, I didn't. What was the last? I think the last thing that I stopped eating was like liver pate, because I really loved liver pate for some reason. And that was the last kind of meat thing that I stopped eating. And I did eat eggs sometimes, and I did have dairy sometimes, although I never used to have a lot of dairy in general, because I thought thought that I might be like lactose intolerant or something, but I did have dairy sometimes and cheese. But yeah, also, yeah, I guess I've been pescatarian for a little while as well at the end, but I tried not to eat fish often. But I did that to kind of like make it easy on people that were cooking for me. And also in my mind, I was like, well, fish is like, I mean, fish is an animal, but it doesn't breathe air. That's so stupid. But yeah, that's kind of like how I had like salmon from time to time. So at that time, there wasn't a lot of like vegetarian things to buy or like foods or whatever. So I kind of like ate exactly the same thing as I would normally, but I just did not eat meat. And then I moved to Gothenburg, so I was living by myself, and I kind of like tried to find foods that I could eat, like substitutes. And I think this is when I kind of started not having a lot of dairy. So when I was out as well, I used to, if you have coffee or something or lattes, I used to have it with soy milk. And then when I moved to London, it was more available. So, like corn with Q. And yeah, specifically when you buy like lattes, I remember for a very long time, I had a lot of lattes with soy milk instead because, yeah, in my mind, it was like I'm lactose intolerant, so it's probably better for me. And that was like the only option. Now you have like 10 different milks so-called milks you can choose from, but back in the day, it was like either milk or soy milk. And I used to eat a little bit more like Japanese food and more Chinese food as well. And there's more like tofu and like soy in there as well. And yeah, everything was fine. I thought, I was doing well. And it was working for me for quite a while. I think also because when you're younger, your body can process things much better as well. And after a few years of being in London, I don't know, I started just to feel like just really tired. And I remember at work, I mean, this is the thing, like in London, things are quite fast paced. And something happened at work. And one of the managers was like, "Oh my God, why are you so slow?" And that really bothered me. And it really pissed me off. So much so, I just gave my notice the next day. I had a meeting with him and I thought he was just so rude. And he was very surprised that I gave my notice. But I was like, I'm not having this. It's just ridiculous. And so I was freelancing at that time, but I had like this tiredness, like this constant tiredness. And yeah, and no, I mean, I will be talking about my surgery and it might get a little bit gross. So just be aware of that. I'll try to keep it as little gross as possible, but there will be some grossness there. And basically, my period as well was getting pretty heavy at times. And that used to make me feel extremely tired and just exhausted. But I was like doing things anyway because I'm this kind of person that, this is probably, either normal or it became normal, I guess, because it was going on for a long time. But it never just even occurred to me that it could be anemia coming out from obviously you're losing a lot of iron. And once I was at a job and suddenly I just felt just extremely tired to the point of like I felt like I'm going to faint. And one of the guys there, he was a manager of the store because I was like freelancing in the store, doing training and things. And he was like, maybe you should check it. It could be anemia. And I was like, actually, he might be right because he's like, you look, pale and stuff. So I went and got one of those like syrups. There is very, very sweet, but it's supposed to have loads of iron in it. I went home and I had literally the whole bottle. I wasn't feeling, much better, but obviously it's always better to be home. And this was kind of like going on like for a while, but I just didn't acknowledge it. I went to see a doctor and I opened the door and she was like, you're anemic. Even before she checked anything, she could see it in my skin. And they took some blood test and she called me I think I had it like, I think it was like a Friday or Monday. It doesn't matter. The date doesn't matter. But she called me literally the day after and said, are you fainting? Do you get tired walking up the stairs? And I wasn't really fainting at that time. And she said, your iron levels are so low, you're basically dying. So we need you to come into the hospital for a blood transfusion. And that freaked me out so much. And I kind of refused to do that. So she put me on like super heavy iron tablets to start with. I don't remember how many I had, like 3 or 4. They were really strong, like really strong iron tablets. And I had to go to have a blood test every single week. So I was doing that for a while and it was getting a little bit better. And funny enough, nobody really checked anything except like blood test, right? And I was getting better. I wasn't feeling that tired, but my periods were not getting any better, which was really strange. So I went back to the doctor and I did tell them, like it's getting very difficult to actually live like this. And what they suggested, obviously, was to take the contraceptive pill because obviously that will stop bleeding. And at that time, I was like so desperate. And I was like, okay, well, if that's what I have to do. So I did that. And still, nobody checked anything at that point. I went in to speak to this lady and it was a scary encounter with this woman that tried to force this coil with hormones in it. And she was like, oh my god, you can just do it now. She was just so pushy. She really, really scared me. I kind of like kindly asked for a leaflet and I left. And she just really scared me. So when I came back home, I kind of Googled this coil thing and so many people had so many issues. And so happy that I didn't stay there. So yeah, I had to take some tablets at that time. And they gave me some other tablets as well, just to kind of like, this will go away. Take this medication, you're fine. So it was still not, I was feeling a bit better, but I still felt like, like this is not a way to live. I don't want to be taking tablets and things forever. And mind you, nobody at that point have told me, maybe it could be your diet because, having meat, maybe, anemia, not eating meat, it could, be no. And they did ask me, like, are you vegetarian? Yes. Nobody said anything. Just take these iron tablets, which are actually really bad for your stomach as well, and probably your liver too. So, yeah, that happened. So I was just taking a lot of medication, and still, at that time, nobody really examined a lot. But I was feeling really sick one day, and I went to the doctor again. This time there was another lady there, and she told me to lay down so she could just like press my stomach and see what was happening. And she did that, walked out of the door, and came back in 5 minutes later, telling me that she had to consult with someone else because they found like this big tumor or something in my stomach. And I didn't even know that it was there because nobody throughout it must have been almost a year I was struggling with this, and none of these doctors found anything at that time. So I got really scared, and she did say, I have to send you for some tests because, just to make sure it's not cancer. And she reassured me that it's probably not, but you have to check what it is. So for a long time I was just really scared, and I had all these strange tests, and mind you, I did all of this by myself as well, without I was in London, so I didn't have my family around. It was just such a strange feeling, but at the same time, when you're anemic, it's like you're there, but you're not really there. So it was like very hazy kind of situation. And yeah, so basically they said it's nothing, as in it's nothing serious, so it's not cancer, but it was a big fibroid, which women can have sometimes. But it was like they're like it's a really big fibroid, and where it was situated, where it was pressing, was not like a good place. So basically they said the reason why you're having these issues is because you have this thing in your stomach and it is not making anything better. But they said you can live with it and continue taking the medication if you like, because it's not cancer, so you can do that, right? Well, so what, I kind of did that for a while. I don't remember for how long I struggled with this. Like, that time is just so hazy, but it was, must have been almost 2 years or so at least. And I couldn't do anything because I was just like always sick. As in, I was always like lightheaded and all of that. It was not great. Right. So, they spoke to me about surgery, and at the end, I was just so desperate to feel better. So I accepted to go in for a surgery to get this thing removed. And even during that time, nobody told me anything about food or, are you vegetarian? Or maybe you should try to eat something different. And you know what? When I went in for the tests, I did ask the doctor, do you think I'd done something to myself to kind of like get this fibroid? And like it can't just like randomly appear in your stomach. And they're like, no, nobody knows. And I said, like, could it be like, do you think drinking soy milk could have something to do with this? They're like, no, there's no. It's just there. It just appears there randomly, apparently. So I had the surgery, got it removed. I had to obviously wait to heal because it's like an abdominal thing. And straight after my surgery, the doctor said, by the way, because of where it was lodged, you might not be able to have kids, but so I'd suggest like if you want to have kids, you like better like have it now. But at that time I was like really young. I was like, what are you talking about? I was just so out of it. I just didn't really. And it was like after the surgery, and I was just happy not to like be struggling with this. So I didn't really think too much about it. Maybe like a year after, when I was healing, I did ask doctor again about this, and she said, oh no, there's no reason why you should not be able to, get pregnant after the surgery. No. It's just like, he just said that kind of to, say worst case scenario thing. But no, there's no problem. You're fine, basically. And yeah. So moving forward, basically the doctor the surgeon that did my surgery that told me that, yeah, you will be probably not able to kind of have kids after a few years or something. He was actually right. So that came kind of like as a shock. So the reason why I kind of want to talk about this is because, women might want to have the option of having children. And if you do, or even if you're not really sure, I highly suggest to think about what you're eating. Because, no, it's not just this, it's also other things. But after like doing so many research, I just researched so many things during that time and afterwards as well, because I just did not understand what actually happened to me, because I was also anemic, so my brain was not like functioning properly. And I'm just very certain that this happened because of like all the soy products and all these like man-made crap that I was eating that were supposed to be ever so good for you. It's just it just feels so stupid to say this now, because it just feels so it's just so obvious now. But back then it wasn't obvious at all, because it's always been said like, you eat your salad, it's healthy, and you eat your porridge because it's healthy, and you can just milk is not good for you because it has lactose and it gives you stomach ache. So why don't you drink something else like soy milk, or it shouldn't even be called milk, to be honest. And all the ingredients and just things, in general. And I do think like when I was younger, I didn't really feel, just didn't understand that, maybe it's what I was eating because everyone else was eating the same thing. So I didn't think too much about it until it must have been now maybe like 4 years ago or so. I started feeling very dizzy again. And I thought to myself, well, I had the surgery, so I should not be anemic. But I was definitely anemic because I was still, not eating properly. Because at that time, I decided to, like, oh, I have to be very, very strict with my food. So let me be a vegan. Which is so, so mad. So I really try to, like, not eat any animal products because I honestly thought this was what was making me feel sick. I think the reason why I didn't want to eat meat as well was because I really didn't like the sound of like the antibiotics in the meat. So it kind of like prevented me from even trying. Yeah, it's a very strange state you're in when like all that is kind of happening. Looking back at it, it makes me, I'm making myself feel very stupid at the moment. But that was the case. So I, yeah, I had my anemia again. So I started taking the iron tablets again. But I didn't really want to because they make your stomach really hurt. And also, for sure, they can't be good for your liver because it's iron. It's not really like bioavailable to you. It's just something that is helping you for a little while. But if you stop taking them, you go back to your anemic self. So yeah, during the time I did that, take them again, I was sick again. I was really, really contemplating, like, what is it? Why is this happening? And yeah, I was really researching other things at that time too. So fast forward maybe about 2 years. So it must have been about 2 years ago. Or it might be less. I'm not really sure. But I think it's about 2 years ago. I really thought I need to change something and definitely change my diet. And I think the past 2 years have been very interesting to me. So I decided that I should probably try to eat meat, but I didn't want to eat just any kind of meat because I was still very scared of like these antibiotics and things in meat. So I found this online company that sells grass-fed, roaming cow meat and things. And I had my first steak, and it was just such a strange it was such a strange feeling to eat meat again. And it was so chewy. And yeah, the texture was so different. It was so chewy as well. I think it was a rump steak as well, and they a little bit chewier. And yeah, I think ever since then I was very diligent to have some kind of meat product every day. Although I used to make stews, so in the stew there was barley and carrots and potatoes and such things as well. And when I was having stew, I was not feeling well either. So I kind of got rid of the barley, which made it a little bit better. But I stopped being anemic ever since, I started eating meat. Tried to eat more eggs as well. I still didn't really want to drink milk because I thought I was lactose intolerant for sure. Because it gave me stomach aches. I could use butter from time to time. Yeah, but my stomach was still feeling strange and bloated, and I still had issues. Although I kind of, I didn't think it was because I started eating meat. At that time, I really didn't want to stop eating meat because I wasn't anemic anymore and I was feeling much better. And I kept buying, and I still am buying, meat that is, from like grass-fed cows or wild animals and things. So yeah, I was never like vegetarian because I felt sorry for the animals. Yeah, I mean, obviously there is an empathy there, but I really don't like these big factories. It's very different. But when an animal actually has a good life, minding their own business, doing what they want to do, and eating what they want to do, it's a very different story. And it's actually better for the environment. So we can talk about that at some other point time. But yeah, I was still not feeling too good because I literally just added meat to my diet. And I think for about over a year, it was like this. Sometimes I felt well, sometimes I didn't. So I stopped having milk because I was like, oh, it must be lactose. I was experimenting. And also, during the time, like about a year before I started eating meat as well, I looked into intermittent fasting. So I started fasting as well. I did experiment with some different times, but I felt like a 16-hour fast for me was something that was like my sweet spot because of the breakfasts that I did not like to eat in the morning. And so it was very easy for me to do like a 16-hour fast. I did a few like 24-hour fasts there as well, and I started to feel so much better. And together with the fasting and starting to eat meat, I was feeling much better. But yeah, it was very like cyclical, like it's cycles that were going. Like sometimes I actually felt absolutely like I really did not feel well. But yeah, it was like this for about a year or so. So I kind of like realized about must have been 6 months ago or so it's pretty recent. I just like said to myself, like, Emily, you know what? It's probably what makes you feel so bloated is probably gluten. Like, what if you're like gluten intolerant? Maybe that's what it is. So I looked into that. There's a doctor on YouTube. His name is Peter Osborne. He talks about gluten intolerance a lot, and he's very good. I think. And so I said, okay, not having gluten, just to see what happens. And the first month, not too much happened, and I think it took about 3 months for me to feel like a difference. Mind you, I was still kind of like doing my fasting a little bit off and on at that time. But yeah, I stopped having gluten. And I mean, like, not, I'm not like having gluten-free things. I try to not have any things that can have like flour, like gluten-free flour. I don't believe in that. It might help a little bit, but it's still flour. So there's still, it's still something that it's not good for you to eat. And yeah, even like gluten-free oats and things, certain grains as well. You have to be very careful with grains in general. And also, mind you, seed oils. Seed oils is also another thing that is just not good for your guts, like at all. And I've been like having a gluten-free diet for 6 months now, and I feel much better. For sure, I haven't been feeling like bloated and strange. So I would definitely recommend that. And to go back to this lactose intolerance as well, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people are different. But for me, the lactose intolerance did not come from the actual lactose in the milk. It came from the fact that the normal milk that you buy in a shop come from cows that are being fed grains. So that's in the milk, basically. So if you have, celiac disease or you're gluten intolerant, this can really trigger like your stomach. Therefore, so many times, if you are gluten intolerant or you have celiac disease, they do say that you should avoid milk because you might be lactose intolerant as well. And I don't actually believe that it's the lactose in the milk. There's other things in the milk that will probably trigger, your stomach aches and pains and bloatiness. Because, so what I tried to do, I tried raw milk. I'm still a little bit like, I'm not a person that drinks milk in general, but I think raw milk is better. I do eat like yogurts from like grass-fed cows. So if I buy any kind of like dairy products, I try to stick with like grass-fed, and these yogurts are better for me. So I know that even like the cows the grass-fed cows, many times during winter, they kind of have to eat hay and other things because obviously it's cold. So it might taste a little bit different, but it makes a big difference for me anyway. And also, like, if you can't do butter, then ghee is a very good option. It's basically clarified butter, so it doesn't have any lactose in there. Yeah, if it's from grass-fed cows, then if you do have a gluten allergy, you should be fine. But yeah, I mean, obviously, check, I guess, with your doctor or, if you know that you really have like severe issues. But I just been basically testing things on myself, and I'm still testing things, you know. I have started to, I think for a month now, I try not to have too much sugar. And I've done this before. I didn't have any sugar, like specifically refined sugar, for about 8 or 9 months. And it's pretty amazing how, like, if you don't have any sugars, like specifically refined sugars, for about 2, 3, let's say 3 weeks, and if you eat something very sweet, you can really taste the real taste of sugar, and it's very bitter. And you know, the first weeks are definitely the hardest because sugar is just so extremely addictive. But once you kind of like come over that hurdle and you stop eating sugar, specifically refined sugar, you will notice that you don't feel this sugar craving as much as you used to, or you don't feel it at all. And yeah, if you have something sugary, 'cause, you know, always like, okay, I really want to have, you know, this piece of chocolate or this biscuit, or, you know, you in a cafe and you want to have a cake. So you go ahead and you treat yourself, right? And the first bite you have is just like, it's just disgusting because it's just so sweet and your taste bud doesn't like it anymore. It's a great feeling in a sense because sugar is just really not good for you. But also, you have to be very careful because if you sneak in sugar little by little, you will start seeing that you get that sugar craving back again. So you really need to be quite disciplined when it comes to sugar, I think. And I know not everyone would like to do that. But basically, that's just what I have been doing. You know, definitely I will talk about these things more in depth at some point. But basically, this is where I'm at. You know, after, you know, all these things that I've been through, and I'm very sure that's been more little things, but they're just so little, I don't even want to talk about them because this podcast is going to be so long. Yeah, I think this is like at least an overview of where I'm coming from. And it has been trialing many times, but at the same time, I'm very happy that these kind of things have pushed me into looking into more obscure, maybe websites, and listening to people that are a little bit controversial, maybe. And there's just a lot of truth in it. And what I try to do at the moment is to be as natural as possible. Obviously, you know, we live in the society of, you know, going to the shop and buying things you like. So it's, you know, you can't be 100% unless you live in a farm somewhere. But yeah, I'll be very happy to, you know, talk about things that I buy, what I choose to eat, of the things that, you know, things that I buy in shops and such. It could be interesting. Yeah, so I think I better end this now and wish you all a good evening or a good day and speak to you soon.